Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Harvey. I want to talk to you today about something real, something every man needs to hear loud and clear: what happens when a man hurts a good woman. Because let me tell you, there's a whole different kind of storm that comes when you break the heart of a woman who loved you with honesty, loyalty, and sincerity. When a good woman finally steps away, her absence becomes the mirror a man never knew he needed. A good woman by nature gives with her whole heart. She loves deeply, forgives generously, and stands beside the man she chooses even when circumstances shake her. Her presence becomes a form of comfort. He gets so used to that, he often forgets it is a privilege, not a guarantee. When she is there, encouraging him, calming him, believing in him, he doesn't always notice how much her love is holding him together. It's only when her footsteps fade, when the texts stop coming, when the warmth she carried disappears from his world, that reality starts to shift for him. He begins to feel the weight of her silence, a silence that speaks louder than any argument could. A good woman doesn't need to punish a man. Her absence is enough to remind him of everything she brought into his life. In the beginning, he might think her absence is temporary. He assumes she'll be back because she always stayed before. But as time passes, the patterns change. Days feel heavier. Life becomes quieter. The meals don't taste the same. The victories don't feel as exciting. And even the simple routines feel hollow without the light she used to bring. Only then does he start realizing how much of his peace came from her presence. It was her steady energy, her patience, her softness, her strength that created a space where he felt safe, even when he didn't admit it. And now, without her, the emptiness grows, reminding him of the treasure he mishandled. He begins to replay moments in his mind. Times she stood by him when no one else did. Times she forgave him when he didn't deserve it. Times she tried to communicate while he brushed her feelings aside. He remembers the little things she did that he never acknowledged, checking on him when he was stressed, supporting his dreams, even when hers went unnoticed, loving him in a way he may never experience again. These memories don't show up all at once. They come slowly, hitting him at unexpected times, like shadows following him through every part of his day. And each memory carries a quiet truth. He took her for granted. As the days stretch forward, he starts to understand the value of presence, the way her voice could calm him, the way her positivity lifted the room, the way her love made him feel like he was becoming a better version of himself. He realized that she wasn't just part of his life. She was one of the reasons his life felt whole. He hadn't just lost a woman, he lost a partner, a friend, a supporter, a peace bringer. Her absence becomes the teacher he didn't ask for, but desperately needs. And in that space where she used to stand, he finally understands that the presence of a good woman is not something life gives twice. A man often realizes the value of a good woman only after he's caused her pain, because sometimes it takes losing peace to recognize what peace truly felt like. When a good woman loves, she loves in a way that makes a man feel accepted, respected, and understood. She gives him a sense of emotional safety that he never had to ask for. She listens when he talks, supports him when he struggles, and stands beside him even when life becomes difficult. But when he hurts her, whether through neglect, disrespect, lies, or inconsistency, he doesn't immediately grasp the damage he has done. At first, thinks she will absorb the hurt the same way she always has, because good women are patient and their hearts stretch far beyond the limits most people can imagine. But even the strongest heart has its breaking point, and when he finally crosses that line, everything begins to change in ways he never expected. As the days pass, he begins to feel a shift. She becomes quieter, more distant, more cautious with her emotions. She stops repeating herself. She stops fighting for his attention. She stops explaining how she feels because she already tried and he didn't listen. Her spirit begins to protect itself, and though he may not realize it, he is witnessing the early stages of losing her. In those moments, he still might not understand the full weight of the hurt he caused. Men often underestimate the emotional wounds they create because they don't feel the consequences immediately. But once her heart starts closing, the entire dynamic changes, and the man finds himself confused, wondering why the warmth he once felt from her is slowly disappearing. Then comes the realization. It usually arrives quietly, not in a dramatic moment, but in simple, everyday things. He comes home, and the house feels different. She doesn't greet him with the same enthusiasm. Her laughter isn't as frequent. Her eyes don't shine the way they used to when she looked at him. He begins to miss the softness in her voice, the way she used to ask about his day, the way she used to share her dreams. He notices the absence of her emotional investment, and it leaves a void that nothing else can fill. Because what he hurt was not just a woman, it was the source of the loyalty, affection, and stability he depended on without appreciating. As time goes by, he starts to feel the regret sinking in. Regret is a slow burning ache, something that grows louder the more he realizes what he has lost. He starts to replay the moments where he failed her, the times he dismissed her feelings, the times he acted like she would never leave, no matter how carelessly he treated her heart. And the deeper the regret grows, the more he understands that the pain he caused her is now the pain he carries. A good woman's love is rare, and when a man damages it, he learns too late that some losses don't come back how deeply he wished they would. A good woman doesn't seek revenge when she's hurt. Instead, she chooses healing and self-respect, and that choice becomes her greatest power. When a woman truly loves, she invests her whole heart. She supports, forgives, and tries again even when she's tired. But when the person she loves becomes the source of her pain, she is forced to look inward and decide whether her love for him is worth the damage is causing her spirit. Some women react with anger, but a good woman reacts with clarity. She understands that revenge only keeps her tied to the hurt, and she refuses to let pain dictate her character. Her heart may be wounded, but she refuses to let it turn cold or cruel. Instead, she begins the slow process of healing, one that starts with accepting what happened and ends with rediscovering her worth. Healing for a good woman is not immediate. She feels everything deeply. She carries the weight of betrayal, disappointment, and confusion for a while, but she doesn't let those emotions drown her. She allows herself to cry, to break, to release the hurt instead of burying it. She understands that wounds only heal when they are acknowledged, so she sits with her pain, speaks honestly with herself, and then gently begins to rise. During this process, she becomes quieter, not out of weakness, but because she is conserving her energy for rebuilding her life. She stops arguing, stops proving her worth, and stops justifying her feelings to someone who didn't value them. She learns to pour her love back into her own heart, a heart that gave so much and asked for so little in return. As she heals, she realizes that she doesn't need to hurt the man who hurt her. The universe, life, and time all have their own way of balancing things. She doesn't seek revenge because she knows that people eventually face the consequences of their actions with or without her involvement. Her strength lies in stepping away from the situation with grace, not bitterness. The man expects drama, chaos, or emotional explosions, but instead he is met with calm, and that calm surprises him. It unsettles him. It makes him realize that she is done, not because she hates him, but because she finally loves herself enough to walk away. Self-respect becomes her new foundation. She starts recognizing the red flags she ignored and the loyalty she gave to someone who wasn't prepared to handle it. She starts rebuilding the confidence that was chipped away by his inconsistency or neglect. Every day she becomes a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more in tune with herself. And as she heals, she begins to transform. She smiles again. This time genuinely, she invests in her dreams again. She learns that she can survive heartbreak without losing her essence. She grows into someone even more powerful than before because pain shaped her but didn't define her. And while she rises with dignity, the man who hurt her is left facing the reality that he lost a woman who chose growth over revenge and strength over anger. When a man loses a good woman because of the pain he caused her, he is forced to confront his own flaws, weaknesses, and unhealed parts in a way he never expected. A good woman's departure is not just the end of a relationship, it is a mirror held up to his character. She was with him, she absorbed the damage caused by his ego, excuses, inconsistency, or emotional maturity. She covered his shortcomings with her patience, his mistakes with her forgiveness, and his silence with her effort. But when her spirit finally reaches its limit and she chooses herself over the pain, the absence she leaves behind becomes louder than any argument she ever had with him. And in that empty space, the truth about who he is becomes impossible for him to avoid. In the beginning, he might try to push the blame outward. He might tell himself she overreacted, that she's emotional, that she'll come back like she always did. But deep inside, a quiet voice begins to whisper the truth he doesn't want to admit. That she didn't leave because she stopped loving him. She left because he stopped paying attention. And that realization hits harder because it exposes parts of him he worked hard to hide even from himself. Being with a good woman often shields a man from confronting his own brokenness because her love fills the gaps he refuses to address. Without her, those gaps remain open and raw, reminding him of everything he failed to work on. As the days pass, the mirror gets clearer. He begins to see how his pride ruined moments that could have been resolved with a simple apology. He remembers how his lack of effort pushed her into emotional exhaustion. He starts replaying the times she tried to communicate and he dismissed her as overthinking, not realizing that those conversations were warnings that her heart was getting tired. He begins to recognize the selfish habits he never corrected, the way he took her loyalty for granted, the way he prioritized everything except her feelings, the way he assumed she would always be there no matter how deeply he hurt her. Those realizations sting because they expose the truth. He wasn't the man she needed him to be, not because he couldn't be, but because he chose not to be when it mattered. Then comes the guilt, slow but steady. He starts remembering the softness in her voice, the sincerity in her love, the things she sacrificed just to keep the relationship alive. He realizes how rarely he matched her energy, how rarely he reciprocated her effort. He begins to understand that he wasn't just careless. He was irresponsible with a heart that trusted him. And nothing forces a man to grow faster than the loss of a woman who believed in his potential more than he believed in himself. Her absence becomes his teacher. It teaches him maturity. It teaches him accountability, and it teaches him that love is not a place to hide his flaws, but a responsibility to improve them. And by the time he realizes all of this, he must face the hardest truth of all. Some lessons come only after the heart that tried to help him has already walked away. Life has a way of bringing consequences when someone mistreats a person who loved them purely. And this truth becomes especially clear when a man hurts a good woman. A good woman doesn't love halfway. She gives fully, honestly, and with loyalty that many men don't recognize until it's gone. When she loves, she pours her energy, her time, her understanding, and her support into the relationship. She becomes the anchor, the emotional home, the steady presence that helps steady his world. But love is not immune to pain, and when a man repeatedly hurts her, whether through neglect, betrayal, disrespect, or taking her for granted, life begins to shift in ways he doesn't immediately see. At first, it might seem like got away with it, but life has a quiet, subtle, undeniable way of balancing the scales. When a man causes pain to a good woman, the first consequence shows up inside her. Not as revenge, not as anger, but as awakening. The pain teaches her what she ignored, what she tolerated, what she misunderstood as love. And that awakening becomes the first ripple that changes everything. She begins to pull back emotionally. She stops giving more than she receives. She becomes careful instead of open, silent instead of expressive, watchful instead of trusting. This shift is not punishment, it is protection. Her heart begins to learn the lessons he forced it to learn. And as she transforms from someone overly forgiving to someone emotionally guarded, he feels the change even if he pretends not to. Then life brings the consequences to him. At first subtly, he feels disconnected, uneasy, unsettled without knowing why. Then the consequences become clearer. He begins losing access to her affection, her trust, her presence, her consistency. The woman who once made him feel important now feels distant. The woman who once made him feel understood now responds with cold clarity. The woman who once made him feel supported now stands back and lets him face life without the cushion she used to provide. He begins feeling the weight of what he broke. Life also brings consequences in the form of self-reflection. Over time, he starts to feel the emptiness created by his own actions. He begins experiencing the emotional void her love once filled effortlessly. In the quiet moments, late at night, early in the morning, or during simple routines, he starts remembering her kindness, her patience, and the way she cared for him without conditions. He begins to understand that he didn't just lose a woman, he lost the version of himself that she helped him become. This realization can be heavy because it reveals how much of his emotional life depended on a woman he didn't value enough while she was there. Life's consequences don't end with regret, they extend into the future. He may try to love again, but he soon discovers that not every woman loves the way she did. He realizes that loyalty like hers is rare, that patience like hers is uncommon, that emotional safety like she offered cannot be easily replaced. Life teaches him that losing a good woman doesn't just affect the present, it reshapes the future. And as he faces the consequences of the pain he caused, he finally understands that hurting someone who loved with purity is one of the few mistakes that life always finds a way to return to the person who created it. A healed woman becomes stronger, wiser, and far harder to deceive again, and this transformation is one of the most powerful outcomes of the pain she once endured. When a good woman is hurt, especially by someone she trusted and loved deeply, the wound cuts in a way that forces her to pause and examine every part of her heart. She feels the disappointment, the betrayal, the confusion, and the shock of realizing that the person she protected did not protect her in return. But a good woman does not stay broken. She takes her time, she moves slowly, and she begins the process of healing from the inside out. Healing is not quick for her because she doesn't numb her emotions. She faces them. She acknowledges the hurt instead of pretending she's fine. And that honesty with herself becomes the foundation of her transformation. As she heals, she becomes more aware of her own worth. Pain has a way of stripping everything unnecessary and leaving only truth behind. And that truth tells her that she deserved better than what she accepted. She starts to see where she compromised too much, where she tolerated disrespect, where she silenced her own needs to keep peace with someone who didn't reciprocate. With every realization, her self-respect grows stronger. The parts of her that once settled now begin to rise. The love she used to give outward without limits now starts flowing inward, rebuilding confidence, self-esteem, clarity, and emotional strength. Her heart begins to feel lighter, not because she forgets what happened, because she has learned from it. As time passes, her healed version is not the same woman she was before. She becomes wiser in the way she gives her heart. She becomes selective in the energy she allows into her life. She begins to set boundaries, not out of fear, but out of understanding. She no longer entertains mixed signals, broken promises, temporary affection, or inconsistent behavior. She no longer confuses potential with effort or excuses with love. She recognizes red flags immediately because she has lived through their consequences. She knows her value not because someone reminded her, but because she rebuilt it with her own hands when everything fell apart. And a woman who rebuilds herself becomes unshakable. This strength does not make her cold, it makes her clear. She still loves deeply, but she no longer loves blindly. She still cares, but she no longer overgives. She still believes in love, but she no longer sacrifices her peace to maintain it. Anyone who enters her life after she has healed must come with honesty, respect, consistency, and emotional maturity, because she can spot insincerity long before it gets close to her heart. The man who once hurt her may look at her and feel regret because he no longer recognizes the woman he took for granted. The softness he misused is now protected by boundaries he cannot cross. The access he once had is locked behind doors he no longer holds the key to. Her healing makes her powerful, and that power ensures she will never be deceived the same way again.